Hi, everybody. This is Dion, the Wanderer. You know, I roam from town to town. I go through life without a care. But when I'm around, man, I listen to the RockStop with Chris Contra. Yo.
Welcome into the RockStop. Chris Contra here, and this is going to be a real cool show. My guest today is a first-generation rock and roll Hall of Famer. He has performed some of the most timeless music in American history. Run Around Sue, I Wonder Why, A Teenager in Love, just a few of the classics he's known for. Later hits like Written on the Subway Wall and I Put Away My Idols exemplify his ability to rock through the decades. He's got a new album coming out November 5th entitled Stomping Ground. It's a follow-up to his very successful 2020 album, Blues with Friends. I'd like to welcome to the show, the Wanderer, Mr. Dion DiMucci. How's it going, Dion?
Chris, pleasure. A joy to be with you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you being here. So we're definitely going to talk about the new album coming out next month. It's a fantastic record. I have heard it. One of the perks about doing what I do, I get to hear some of the stuff before the official release. But so stay tuned for that discussion. We got a lot to say about the new album, Stomping Ground. But before we get into that, I got to jump back in time with you a bit with the Dion and the Belmonts days. Your first big hit with the Belmonts was I Wonder Why. Is that correct?
Yeah. 1957, 58, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody that hears that song, when it comes on to this day, I don't know many people that don't start singing along to that song.
Yeah. It was kind of different. You know, when I put that, the Belmonts, the group together, Dion and the Belmonts, we wanted to come out with something different, you know, like the intro to Johnny Be Good, with the way Chuck Berry, like that was so, you know, distinctive. His guitar playing at the beginning, it was so iconic. I thought, let's open the record with something as iconic for a doo-wop group, you know. So we started it out a little different, you know. And
man, all these years later, I've seen that song pop up in so many classic movies and TV shows throughout the years. I mean, it's in Christine, that the movie with the killer car, that song's in there. It's in the first episode of The Sopranos. It's in A Bronx Tale. I mean, just some of the classic movies and TV shows that song has appeared in.
It has. I don't know. It kind of defines a period, you know, early street rock and roll, you know.
Yeah, definitely. It really does. Did you? What do you think about some of those movies? Did you like the?
Well, yeah, I love The Sopranos. In fact, a young playwright put a script together for a play called The Wanderer that's opening March 24th in 2022 at Paper Mill Playhouse in Millburn, New Jersey. They're going to hone it, but there before they move it to Broadway. But it, you know, talk about early street rock and roll. That has the history of that is definitely the beginning of that play. So it's kind of an iconic sound, you know, yeah. To start it off, and a lot of fun, you know. It's just I remember when I kind of recruited 3 of the best singers in my neighborhood to form Dion and the Belmonts, and I took them up, you know, I lived with my parents and I had a little space in that Bronx apartment, and we went into it and we started singing I Wonder Why. And it was, Chris, it was such a defining moment for me. It was like a gold, it's like etched in gold or something, you know.
Yeah.
I felt like I was on a merry-go-round in heaven because one guy was, you know, singing. Dun, 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 dun. He sounded like a rivet gun. One guy was singing in the clouds with a falsetto voice. I was singing words, and the other guy was wow, wow, ooh. We were singing like 3-4 different things.
Yeah.
But the whole song, I mean, made perfect sense. But I never experienced anything like that up until that moment.
Wow.
So it was incredibly, it was very a defining moment for me.
So you could tell kind of right away, right after you guys laid that one down and had it recorded, that this was something really special.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
I knew it had something.
Mm-hmm.
It just it took us on a trip. We started laughing. We couldn't stop laughing. It was. I don't think any of us experienced anything like that up until that moment. It was, it was just special. It's like one of those moments where the stars come together,
Right, yeah. The layering of the vocals and the harmonizing. I mean, it really is just such a unique thing. And like I said earlier, when that song comes on to this day, I think everybody just starts singing and puts a smile on people's faces.
Yeah, even 5-year-old kids.
That's true, right? It really has an impact on so many. Now, did that song kind of get you going into like TV appearances at that time? It put you on the map for that stuff?
Yeah, we went out on a tour with the first tour we did was with Bobby Darin. And Bobby Darin, it was interesting because he was older than I was, and he was a college guy, and he taught me how to pay taxes. I had no idea what taxes were. My father never earned enough money to pay taxes.
Wow.
So I did not know what they were. And I got a journal at the corner drugstore in Midwest where we were touring. And, I did 8 weeks with Bobby Darin. Then I went on tour with Buddy Holly. So, and wow. Sam Cooke. And, I knew these guys. It was incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then, I mean, speaking of some of the early TV appearances, the American Bandstand with Dick Clark. I remember you guys did the Teenager in Love up on the balcony there, right?
Yeah, there was I remember that was the little theater. It was on like 46th Street or something like that in Manhattan. And, we started doing some of those appearances where you lip sync your record,
Right.
Whether it was American Bandstand in Philly, So it was fun, It was for a young guy who was wondering who he was and what to do, at 17. Mm-hmm. That was definitely something to do.
For sure. And I mean, I that footage of you guys on American Bandstand, so like iconic. A lot of performances, but not many did from the balcony like that. Who came up with that idea? Do you remember how that was brought up?
I don't know, but it was it was fun doing, especially when you got a bunch of girls yelling at you. Yelling
right.
Not at you, but
for right. Yeah, and rock and roll is so new then that seeing the joy on those kids' faces at those performances had to be like amazing, huh?
Yeah, I got hooked on taking people on a trip early on, like in junior high school when I came out on the stage with a guitar and a little band, and I saw everybody what happened. The response that I got. I just got hooked. I've never changed, Chris. I still have the love of walking out on a stage with a guitar and hitting a chord and getting into a song and just taking people with me. It's just fantastic feeling. So I've never changed in that respect,
You get that same enthusiasm you had all those years ago.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do. That's great.
Well, when something fills you with wonder and awe and mystery and, and sounds and God, I love I think we're all born with a creative gene, but I found what I wanted to do early on. So I was very fortunate. I feel like I lived a privileged life because I found that. And
yeah.
I love getting up in the morning and, just the creative process of writing a song. I'm still like that. That's why I have this new album coming out called Stomping Ground. It's crazy because I feel like I'm under the spout where the glory comes out. And that's a fun process to write a song. And where there is nothing, you go into a studio and you create something, a sound with words. And I still love that process. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, the excitement of like writing a song and bringing it to life in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just got to be an amazing feeling.
That's my passion.
Definitely. Now, you mentioned going on tour with Buddy Holly. You first met Buddy in '58. Is that right?
Yeah, went on tour with him for a month through Canada and the South, and then we I don't know, came back home, and then he wanted to put another tour together. We got along so well, and we put that tour called the Winter Dance Party together, where that fatal plane crash happened.
Right.
We went out in 1959, like early 1959. We started in Milwaukee, where we started actually in Chicago, where we rehearsed, and then the first job was in Milwaukee, and then we started crisscrossing the Midwest for about 2 weeks before that fatal plane crash.
Yeah. From what I understand, he kind of left the Crickets at that point. They were having some issues. He got a new band together and wanted to bring in some tour mates, and that's why he kind of chose you as part of that, right?
Well, he did come out without what I knew as the Crickets. He came out with three guys that I never met before. Waylon Jennings was a bass player. He called them the Crickets, but they weren't the guys on the record.
I see. Yeah.
And, Tommy Alsop was on guitar, and then they had a young guy on drums. We call him the Goose. He was a cool guy, and we went out and we rocked. That was the backup band for Richie Valens and the Big Bopper, and the four of us went out, and we were having a great time.
Yeah. How early on did you see that the travel accommodations, in spite of having the great time, but how early on did you see that those travel situation was going to be so poor?
Well, when you're 19, man, you I don't know, you just roll with stuff, you know. But so I kind of wasn't a whiner or a complainer, or I didn't feel entitled. I wasn't brought up that way, so I kind of rolled with it, but it was brutal. I mean, a lot of it, we were on like an old school bus, so like you'd find at a Baptist school in the parking lot, a little yellow school bus.
Wow, yeah.
Back in the 50s, and it wasn't a Willie Nelson custom made Royal Eagle.
Right, yeah. And that was kind of like your guys, Dion and the Belmonts, your first major tour, right? So, I mean, you hadn't had a lot to compare it to.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It was a learning process, but I, at that age, all I knew was the Bronx, concrete and the tenement buildings and my friends. And then I get out on a bus, and there's a guy from, Waco, Texas, and there's a guy from Lubbock, Texas, and there's a guy from the Barrio, the Chicano section out in L.A.
Yeah.
And there's me from the Bronx, and we got guitars, and we get in the back of the bus, and we all had a different brand of rock and roll,
Yeah.
Where, Buddy Holly had this country kind of distinctive sound, and Richie Valens was putting English words to some of these Latin songs like La Bamba. He was putting he was changing them into like American rock and roll songs, and the Big Bopper was a great writer. He wrote stuff for George Jones. I mean, George Jones recorded a couple of his songs.
Wow.
White Lightning and all. So he was a great writer. These guys weren't only Yeah, they were great artists, all three of them.
Yeah.
Miss
Right, for sure. And so you guys, on those long bus rides, and in spite of those, rough conditions, you guys were having fun, playing music, talking, just all getting along. Like you said, even though you all come from very different backgrounds, it kind of melded well, and you guys all got along really well, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. We were enthralled with what each of us brought to the party. It was very different, but very significant, or we certainly enjoyed each other's approach to it.
Right. And when go ahead.
It was new. The records back then had very little guitar solos on it because they had to be 2.5 minutes, three minutes.
Right.
So, there's if you listen to Buddy Holly's catalog, there's not one solo on it, not one guitar solo.
Mm-hmm.
He played some chords here and there. Richie was trying to get some notes in there. I left it out in a lot of ways because there was no time.
Yeah.
But on these new songs, like I'm just fast forwarding to Stomping Ground. You write a song that's 5 minutes, you got a little time.
Yeah.
And especially in the blues genre or the blues rock genre, you could just really stretch out and have some fun, and just
Mm-hmm.
rock out. So that's what I kind of evolved or developed into. There are some people, like, they'll say to me, "Wow, you recreated yourself." I said, "No, I didn't create myself in the first place, so I don't know how I'm going to recreate myself." I said, "No, I think I just developed and I evolved. I was like an acorn, at 17. Now I'm like an oak tree. Same DNA, but
Right.
I'm just stretching out. I haven't, I did The Wanderer and Ruby Baby back then, or Drip Drop. Same stuff,
Yeah.
Run Around Sue is a cleverly disguised blues song, so.
And yet I just want to go back a minute because you were talking about how there weren't many guitar solos back in those days on the records. And, I've listened to them so many times, and you're right. And now doing that, like for the Winter Dance Party, for example, and you guys were playing live shows, which, there's like no video of that stuff really, just some pictures and things. I could only imagine how amazing those live performances from all you guys were at that time.
Well, that's why I mentioned it, because the live performances, we stretched the songs out. If you had a song like Peggy Sue or That'll Be the Day, Buddy would stretch it out to 6 minutes and do some guitar solos, and we'd really play with it, and honing our skills out there. We all had the new Stratocaster guitars, and we were in competition to see who made them ring the longest.
Cool.
And, we were stretching out a little, further than where the records were.
Yeah. So just explaining kind of how Buddy Holly, it's so sad that he only lived 22 years, but seeing, being on stage with him and watching him perform, what was the energy like?
Oh, it was, Buddy Holly off stage. He was like an accountant, he was very meticulous, very statuesque, very orderly, very, deliberate kind of guy,
Yeah.
But once he walked out on stage with that Stratocaster and took the stance, and hit the first chord, forget about it. It was like, hold on to your ass. He just turned into it was like Shazam.
Yeah. Wow.
And the energy, it didn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
With those guitars, we started, we caught a beat. I'm a rhythm singer, man. You give me a beat and I'll go. So it's, the rhythm, that's what it was, for me, all about. I don't know, as a kid I always wanted to communicate like Hank Williams and groove like Jimmy Reed or Chuck Berry. It was just great fun to get into a groove and rock out for 5 minutes and take the audience with you. That like I said, that was a joy, a lot of fun.
Definitely. Wow. Now was that I mean, it was so early on for you in your career at that time. Were you guys, while you were on those long bus rides, was it a creative time as well? Were you all kind of coming up with maybe song ideas for your next singles and things like that?
Yeah, some of it, but most of it was what we knew and sharing that with each other, like sharing what we were listening to, sharing what we knew, the songs we knew. There was some creative stuff. I wrote a song called I'm Gonna Hug My Radiator when I hit my hotel room. I wrote it on the bus, and I didn't record it until years later. But it's on an album called Deja Nu. Right. But I wrote it right on the bus, because I was freezing to death, and I thought, man, I'm going to hug the rat. Now, these days, I never recorded it because nobody knows what a radiator is,
Yeah. So there was some songwriting, and that one, of course, talking about the brutal conditions of the road at that time on that bus, and the bus kept breaking down. And we know the story. Carol Bunch, who was the drummer for Buddy Holly, I mean, it got so bad that he developed frostbite on his feet and had to leave the tour.
Yeah, he did. We knew nothing about that kind of stuff, and he was so cold he put on 4 pair of socks, and he held the cold in. For some reason, that's what they said. They said you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, but, so it actually made it worse.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, in his case, yeah, and it got bad. He had to leave the tour, and Carlo Mastrangelo, one of the Belmonts, who was a great drummer, started. In fact, there were pictures of him backing up Buddy Holly and Richie Valens. A guy who was in the Belmonts. He was a great drummer. Mm-hmm. So he finished out the tour, playing in back of them.
Yeah, and I heard at that time, kind of because Carl was out and he was playing drums for Buddy, that Buddy would actually sit in and play drums for your sets as well.
I'm the only guy on the planet that could say Buddy Holly played drums for me.
Wow. How was he as a drummer?
He was good, Yeah, he had the touch, man. That's where he got that right hand when he played that Strat, man. He had good rhythm, buddy.
Very cool, very cool. And then just like the last time you kind of were with those guys, sadly, on I guess the February 2nd performances, I mean, does anything stand out about the last time you guys all were taking the stage?
Well, what stood out, being asked, nobody ever asked, but we used to end the show with a traveling song, it feels like I gotta travel on, mm-hmm. And we'd all come out on stage and we'd sing we'd let it go on and on and on, and we'd all take solos, and so it just I just remember the joy of that last show. It was a great thing. It was great.
That's great to have a good memory like that before the tragedy that happened. The song "The Wanderer," of course, your big hit. You're kind of known as that. Did you get any backlash early on when you did that song with the because of sort of the abrasiveness of the character?
No, not at all. It's the character in the song says, "I roam from town to town. I go through life without a care. I'm as happy as a clown with my 2 fists of iron, but I'm going nowhere." It's kind of a song about a guy who is a thin veneer of a man, but he's having a good time. He's drinking, he's running around with women and traveling and running around the country. Yeah. At that time, maybe it's a darker song than the way I actually recorded the song, right. Expressed it. But, in the 50s, man, everything had to be in a major key, like had to sound fun, so
Yeah.
we knocked it out.
Right.
But
Right.
no, but it wasn't that the political correctness. We would have got, today it would have been a little different with Runaround Sue or The Wanderer.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to, just I don't know what they want. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. I was just wondering, but that's cool you didn't. I mean, it's a fun song and it's a classic. Do you remember how many takes you did of that when you went in the studio of recording The Wanderer?
Not many.
Uh-huh.
We threw some out. I think we did one with a guitar solo. We didn't like it because it sounded like Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
So we said let's try it with the horn. I don't know, 3 or 4 takes. I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
But we just rocked it, and it was fun. I remember we had a great drummer on that session. Actually, 2 great drummers. We had Panama Francis and Sticks Evans, and they rocked it, man. It was fun. It was a lot of fun doing that. Yeah,
definitely. And then I wanted to ask you about the song "Little Diane" and the utilization of the kazoo in that song.
Yeah, well, I always fancied when I was a kid, I always wanted to play horn. I always had these sounds in my head, and that's how I put a lot of the arrangements together. When you hear the group behind me, it's just to me they're like horn parts.
Uh-huh.
So I got a kazoo, and I thought I was going to sound like a sax. I thought I was going to hear like I thought I was going to sound like, wow, man, he's playing. He's really, and
uh-huh.
it sounds so lame when I heard it. I in my head, the way I thought I was going to sound and the way it actually sounds,
right?
It's hysterical.
So you might have done that differently in hindsight.
Oh my God! Yeah, in my head, I thought I was Charlie Parker.
I gotcha. Okay, and then I just want to ask you as we kind of wind down here. What do you think about when you hear some of the covers of your music? Like, for example, I know that the Red Hot Chili Peppers did a cover of "Teenager in Love."
I think I'll Google that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, man. They're a fun group, man.
Yeah, they really are. So that was cool to hear. So then, we want to talk about the new album, Stomping Ground, which is more blues music coming off of your last album from last year, Blues with Friends. You got a lot of great collaborations on there, man. Eric Clapton, and I mean, just who's who of amazing artists on that album with you.
I do. It's just amazing to get guys like Mark Knopfler, Dire Straits, and Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, and Bruce Springsteen. I mean, and just a lot of great guitar players. Peter Frampton jumped in on one, and the last one, Jeff Beck played on it. Van Morrison. Brian Setzer, just a lot of. I did a song with Paul Simon on the last one that was that kind of won Song of the Year. It's a song about Sam Cooke and my travels with him through the South. But it's a lot of fun because I mean at this stage I feel like they're the 2 best albums I've ever recorded. You know, I have more experience now. I'm writing better. And I'm expressing myself better. I'm not thinking as much because I have more experience with it, So I think, the combination of the great songs and great tracks and having these great guitar players contribute to it, it's just a lot of fun, Chris. What could I tell you, man? I'm having fun.
Yeah, and it comes off in the record that you guys are having fun. I mean, it sounds fantastic. The production quality is through the roof. I mean, your voice sounds amazing on the record. And like I said, all the collaboration partners that you had, the song "Hey Diddle Diddle," I think it's the second track on the record. Really great stuff.
Well, that's a good example. I write this song, "Hey Diddle Diddle,"
uh-huh.
and I'm thinking, gee, I'm hearing it something, in my mind a certain way, but I never say anything once I hand it to somebody, because I'm handing it to a great artist, and the whole point of the thing is, don't tell him what to do. You want to hear what he's hearing, what he's going to contribute to it from his perspective. So I give the song to G.E. Smith. He ran the Saturday Night Live band for like years.
Yeah, right.
And he's just master of the Telecaster. So I figure, he knows the instrument, and he's played with everybody. I figure I'm going to just let him loose.
Yeah.
So the song starts, and he starts playing, and he's playing stuff that I never heard before. It sounded like Arabian blues rock. I don't know what he was doing. and that just goes to show you,
Yeah, right.
Like what you were talking about, like that particular song. Now when he first played on it, was nothing at all that I was thinking of,
Yeah.
It was so foreign to anything I could imagine or dream of. But now I can't hear the song without his contribution. It sounds just perfect,
Right. That's very cool. And then I also want to mention the song you do with Peter Frampton, There Was a Time. I mean, very great number. I think very retrospective for a lot of things. I
love that song. My wife loves it. Yeah, it's a well written song. It's one of my favorites. And the reason why he plays so well is he grew up to Rango Janghart, and he could, when he takes solos, he every once in a while he hits a note that just makes your heart quiver or something. I don't know. Makes you cry. He's unbelievable. Yeah. Very underrated guitar player.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. So that's the album. It's called Stomping Ground. It comes out in about 1 month, November 5th. It'll be out. And we only talked about a couple of tracks. There's 14 awesome songs on there. And I really believe that it's going to top the blues charts. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. I got that one song coming out as a single October 12th. It's called Angel in the Alleyways. And the verse in it says, "Who guides the hand that comes to play like B.B. King and Stevie Ray? Who takes the pain we didn't choose and turns it into Chicago blues?" That's for you.
Very cool. So, I'll leave a link so you guys could check all this stuff out. And when the album comes out, check it out for sure. So, Dion, man, I really do appreciate you coming on the show and doing this interview.
God bless you. Stay well, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.